Why, hello there. It's been some time, hasn't it? You may be wondering, hey, where's some videos and stuff? I've been out of it. It's hard to explain, and my personal life isn't really the best to talk about. But one thing that's going on right now is I'm having to work a bit more because my brother took some time off, so we had to supplement that somehow, so I've been gone. I've been posting some things on Patreon as well, but other than that, what I wanted to come here and do is get a really quick talking thing. Because, one, I don't have any new art to make any new videos. If you haven't noticed, it's that. It's just, yeah, I kind of want some new art for some new thumbnails. But for this, much different. We're going to go simple. Weekly, I've been going to some exercising. I'm sugarcoating it. I've been LARPing. I've been doing some amped guard, and it's been fun. And I've been exercising a lot. I've been losing weight. I've actually down 12 pounds in a month, which is like, oh, do you look like this? Kind of, yes. I'm a tall boy, and I wish I just weighed less. Like, if you look at me, it's like, oh, he has a tummy, which is what I don't want. But I'm getting distracted again. ADHD. I apologize. After we play that, we all hang out at a local family's house, and we play some Dungeons and Dragons, which is one of my greatest passions. And you can see why this video is here now, because the greatest passion is here to tell you what's going on in that. I've been having some fun playing with these people. So we got 3 characters, but we're going to start with the first 2. We have Jade and Syl. Jade being a tabaxi, and Syl being a very short human girl. It's funny because every single character has chosen their feet height is like 5'4" or something. Syl wears like these metal boots that give her up to like a 6-foot height, like 8-inch heels, just wearing them. And yeah, one's a warlock and the other one is just a fighter. And they were both in prison. I didn't specify why they were in prison. They didn't really have reasons. One of them had a basic understanding. Syl being a pit fighter, she realized, oh yeah, illegal fights, that makes sense. And Jade's like, I don't want to talk about it, which makes sense. Tabaxis, demi-humans, anything of the such, not really good. And they are in one of the kingdoms of my world of Kiosk, and they are in the Drastiria Dynasty, which is a very big place to be. One of the premier human kingdoms. And that's where we started this. Because in the Drastiria Dynasty, they were locked up, and they went to go talk to the local king of Drakemire. So, yeah, that's where we start. They're like, yo, we're going to be keeping you guys in prison, or the ruins of this kingdom underneath is something that we need explored. We sent some people down there, and they haven't come back. Can you go down there and check it out? It's either more prison, or they play Dungeons and Dragons, so of course they play Dungeons and Dragons, get their equipment to go down, and they're asking questions, what's going on there? Like, we have no idea what's going on down there. Court Wizard went down there and hasn't come back. Find him. And they're like, alright, perfectly understandable, let's go. So they head down instantly and start looking around. It's very short time before they see it's like a maze of rooms where they start heading through. Each step is just very dimly lit because of their dark vision. They can't see that far, but looking around, they find 2 ways to go. Going through the first way, they open the door and instantly alert 8 zombies to their location, which they immediately panic over and just take position in the doorway, which zombies can't rush through all at the same time. So one at a time, the zombies are coming through, can't get through, and these guys... One's a warlock who's using unarmed combat, and the other one is using a halberd as a fighter. So one's over the other one's sitting down, just beating them. And so they have some good strategies here of being able to take out some zombies, which they're looking at it and they have no idea what's going on with these. It's dark as hell. They have no torch. They're thinking about lighting a torch, but why should they? Because they both happen to have dark vision. And you're like, why does the human have dark vision? We'll get to that in a bit. We will. Don't worry about it. Running around. They go into a big cave system that's part of this. And they find out that some of these rooms have been destroyed by what seems to be a rockworm that just lays into them, and they nearly get their asses killed. Finding a place to rest, they hold up and take a short rest to be able to continue on. Finding themselves looking around. This place was abandoned several hundred years ago, and the kingdom was built on top of it, the Drastiria Dynasty, by the Drakewind family. And obviously there are some ancient things down here, which they did find a few minor magical things. The first thing they found was a magical whip. That's great. And a potion of necrotic resistance. And I believe it was also some adamantine ring mail or chainmail, one of the two. It was 3 weeks ago that this happened, so I can get into it, but I will explain everything eventually. It's only the first session. And they did something I didn't really expect, where they just like brazenly, they saw a bridge which crossed some water, and they're like, there's a throne over there. Let's go check it out. Walk up, not sneaking at all. I'm like, alright, this is going to be great. They haven't explored the rest of the place. They're going to go to the main area, and they didn't even kill the rockworm yet. So they walk forward and instantly wake up a vampire spawn. Mind you, they are level 1, and this is a vampire spawn. So they are going to get their asses kicked. They instantly start sprinting away. The tabaxi is fast as fuck because it's a tabaxi. And the human, Syl, starts running on the walls because she's a vampire. And she didn't know that, but she's like, starts running. She's like, wait a second, I am getting some grip here, and starts running on the walls. But the vampire spawn follows after her, running on the walls. And they're like, this is not good. This vampire starts chatting to them, just explaining, just like, what's going on? What year is it? I need to understand what's going on. Where's the kingdom? And they're just trying to run because this guy's just like, first I need to heal myself by drinking your blood. Because he is pretty much desecrated, so he's a weakened version of a vampire spawn. Not much, though. And so they start chasing him, and they're throwing blasts out, and they can outrun him barely. He has no weapons, so that's another bonus for them. But they're still throwing things out, and he's healing them because he's a vampire spawn. Not healing a lot comparatively, but he's still healing them. And they drag him to follow them into the cave room, where they fight the rockworm and him at the same time, and they have the rockworm and him fight each other. Which was entirely just like, okay, I guess you could do that. The vampire spawn could beat him, and then you could fight him afterwards. Jade dropped after the vampire spawn through his hand, through his shoulder blade, and then it was left with Syl, who had to just slowly beat down on this guy, who nearly killed her. But they were able to wake each other up from that. That was just Jade and Syl killed a vampire spawn and a rockworm, both CR3, with a help from each other at level 1. Because I am an insane dungeon master who likes to challenge my players. And it's also their fault, because they didn't plan that well. So, yeah. They start looking around the dungeon to be able to find this missing court wizard, and they find his corpse drained of blood. And they're like, oh, well, that's not good. And they grab him and take him all the way back. Also, there's a single magical item. I believe it was a ring of some sort, but don't hold me to that because I'm not looking at the character sheets right now because I just set up everything and I don't want to have an extra window set up. So we're going to say it's a magical ring for now. And if it's not, we'll retcon that later. Once I get closer and closer to the game session than we actually are, then you'll realize, oh, yeah, his memory's better because he's not doing this every month for a past thing that happened 2 months ago. So yeah, but they found him, and they take his body back up, exploring the rest of the place, gathering any treasures they found, and they're able to leave, get their prison sentences revoked and removed, and the king allows them to go free, thanking them for their assistance. And they also received some instant use necrotic resistant stuff that lasts like a minute. So it was pretty successful. They were able to live, and they're like, hey, do you guys fucking want to kill us because there's a vampire down there? That's why you have these bug pellets? They're like, no, we have no idea what's down there. I'm like, alright, understandable. And they fucking leave. And they're just like, that is just odd. And they start looking around the entire kingdom of Drakemire, which they hadn't really explored that well. One of them, Syl, goes back to her family that lives in the city, her poor family, and gives all the money that she found, about 50 gold pieces, to them to be able to buy things. And Jade himself starts looking around, and there's like, alright, we need a way to carry all our stuff. And so, I shit you not, the entire later adventures that we're going to talk about is they're just like, let's go get a bank account. Remember that. They are trying to get a bank account from here on, and I will tell you when they are not trying to get a bank account anymore. But that might be a next video thing. But it's like, we need to get a bank account. So they go to some of the banks here. And the banks here can magically transport money to each other. Because, of course they can. They have notes that be like, this person has this much money, blah, blah, blah. It's easy to deal with. And so they're just like, alright, so we can do that. But it's going to cost some money. And are you sponsored? And they're like, what do you mean sponsored? It's like, we only accept people who have their own companies, guilds, and noble families. And like, oh, shit. So 2 nobodies, both level 2 now after that short adventure. They're just like, alright, we need to get some assistance here. And they start asking around. Like, there's a meeting of the noble families, the 4 noble families that are here, and 3 of them are going to be showing up. And they're like, okay, we can go talk to these noble families and figure out what it'll take to actually get into one of the noble families. Or they can go to one of the guilds. And they're like, probably a noble family, because we don't want to be under any rules of any guilds. They go to this meeting and start talking with people. They're able to get become acquaintances with one of the knights from the other families, and he was actually quite interested in talking with them, because one of them was a follower of the war god. And he's like, hey, I actually transported some stuff for the war god and got my ass kicked by some thief that stole the artifact that we were transporting. And they're like, that's interesting, we should learn more about that. And they're trying to learn more about that and trying to talk to the families, and they realize that there's another noble family that kind of lost all their members, like they were slaughtered. They're like, we should go talk to them, because that might be the easiest way to get in. And they look, and they see a werebore. Just a guy with a boar-like head, and he has tieflings coming in with him. And they're like, that's odd. And they're like, oh, no heed to me. And Syl's like, this is odd, let's watch the tieflings. And she watches the tieflings put their hands on the walls and start tracing them over them. And she realizes that one of them left a handprint. And she calls over the guard that they were just talking to. And he's like, what's going on? Like, well, one of these tieflings left a handprint. And they're like, where are they? Well, they're leaving the kingdom now. I'm like, that's weird. And so the knight goes over to touch the handprint to see what's going on with it. And it immediately explodes, and an arcane fire and several other spots blow up. A terrorism attack. Yeah, we're getting into it. Terrorism. And so you watch as everyone's freaking out, and Jade, the tabaxi's like, I am faster than most horses if I sprint. So he sprints down to chase down these people, and he watches as they're on horseback, and they take these little crystal balls as they're out of the kingdom, and they throw them to enter into a snowstorm that they create. He runs into the snowstorm, but he is not wearing the correct stuff to be able to save himself in this snowstorm before it just starts freezing him. He leaves. The other knights get here, and we call this the Drastiria Dynasty, and the Drakemire family has the Drakeblood Knights. Why are they Drakeblood Knights? Because they ride wyverns, and several wyverns come in. one of them dives into this little snowy area out of 7 people, and after the snowy area disappears, 6 knights are there, and 1 knight is gone. So it's like, oh, they teleported out of here. That's not good. We'll have to keep an eye out for them. And so they notice the 2 people that were actually helping them. Like, cool, you guys were prisoners. You're helping us out. That's great and all, but this is a kingdom thing, so we would ask you to stop. We're going to take care of this. We don't want any civilians getting hurt and whatnot. And they were just like, all right, fair enough. And there's like, we should learn more about this, but also, your god lost an artifact. We could probably talk to the people of your god, the priests of the temple, and just figure out what we could do to actually get in their good graces, and they could put in a good name for us for the noble family, so we can get a bank account. All right, there's multiple steps here to get this bank account now. And so from there, they're like, we got to take some time, grab our rations, sell a few things, buy a few things, and head straight to an illegal black market area. Just 1 day's travel into the hills, where apparently an ex-nobleman lives who considers himself a king, but can't do anything because no one considers him a king. It's quite funny. And that will be the next time we actually talk, because that'll be session 2, where the next player comes in, who is a bunny boy. Not like a bunny boy, but actual Harengon, so an actual bunny humanoid shape, which is just... it was an entire fun event. But honestly, I would love to continue talking about it, but I do have to work today, and I apologize for this, but I thank you all for listening to my rambles, and there will be another video out soon, Cyberpunk, and I'd like to thank you all, and have a good day, and a good night, wherever you may be listening to this. Goodbye. Alright, it's Patreon shoutout time. I'd like to say hello and thank you. Wait, what am I doing? Fuck, oh god, I'm such an idiot sometimes. Let's do that over. Patreon shoutout time. Void Walker, Sapphire Jam 1536, Ascari, and Ask Zombie. Thank you all for being patrons. It's very helpful, and it can actually help me spend money on to get some new arts, which are in the works. Don't worry. One's a full body one, and the other one's a portrait one. You'll see it later, okay? Alright, Mom. Sorry. I hope you enjoyed the PNG tuberness. It took me months to actually get that set up because I'm an idiot who doesn't know how to set that thing up on my new Mac. I bought a Mac Mini because it's best for work, and it's just helpful, which is why I like to thank everyone who supports me. It lets me get new things for this. I did something stupid though, and with my own money I bought a new microphone, which I've explained has the issues. I'm pretty sure I explained this. Am I always just talking about the same things over and over again? You always can always just leave in the comments, be like, you told us this. And I'll be like, thank you. I'm an idiot sometimes, but it's just what I do. Thank you all for watching. If you want to be a patron, you can go to Patreon and see all the custom audios I do, specific Patreon audios, and I talk to the patrons a lot. In fact, I know that Milo Stout actually, one of the old patrons, they're having some issues with their credit card stuff, so they're not here for it now. But I'd like to thank you all, and you guys can message me whenever you want. I am there to talk. Oh, yeah. All right, that's it for me. Goodbye.